can't get funds, grants, or anything else now to do anything. And it's hard to even get people to donate now because they don't have the money. We tried raffles and stuff, and they can't even afford to buy raffle tickets. And 36. Oh, I saw the sign, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we are trying with Scroggins and other things for social, and they just need more help downtown. I mean, we help everybody all around town. We gave $1 million out the other day and decided not to pave some streets. They used $1 million to give them something, and now you have to pay that $1 million back.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Thank you, though.
I think, again, it comes down to taking advantage of some of the assets that we already have. We have a really great senior center, so we have a really great Boys and Girls Club that is governed on their own, but again, there are opportunities for their board to come to City Council and for City Council to be open to what it takes to have that as a valuable asset. We also have, I think it's a role of the city to have really great public areas that we can all be proud of. So you need a good park system. We have Cheetah Lake. You need to support and partner with Lebanon Community Foundation that provides a lot of opportunity in that arena.
I think Rebecca was cheating on my paper. She's got my first 3 items right there.
Oh, and I
Senior
forgot
center. I agree a lot with you, Rebecca. We do have a wonderful senior center, and we need to continue to support that because our population as it ages needs outreach, it needs opportunity, and those seniors need access to the programs that are provided by state agencies and federal agencies as well. And the senior center is a great place to get those programs out to those senior individuals in our town. The Boys and Girls Club is a wonderful organization too. I'm very vested with that organization, and it's great when the city partners with the club, which they often do, to help out with projects and programs. I love Cheetah Lake. I work across from it every day that I go to work, and I look at that and I just see the future of that. I'm so excited for what Cheetah Lake can become. I really want to make sure the city continues to support them because they are. I just went out and talked to the guys who were helping to build the amphitheater out there a few weeks ago. That's going to be a wonderful thing for our city. And we have a fantastic library that provides a ton of services that honestly I didn't know about until I had kids. And when you go down there with your children to the library, what a wonderful place and organization that is.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm somewhat mystified by some of the statements because as I look back, the senior center is there because the city council at the time saw the need to have a new center because the downtown one was not working. So that was an arena that I was part of and looked forward to and helped. The city provided property behind the police station for a skate park while I was on council. That's looking forward. And the money that Mr. Weldon just mentioned was for the LBCC Auto College.
There are absolutely a lot of social things, but I'm Captain Social Program. But there are lots of things we have to make sure everybody knows about them. That's the problem. I know it's probably not the City Council's deal to be able to do that, but maybe we can contribute in some way, shape, or form. In an ideal world, I would love to have a community center that would play a dual role as like a theater, if you will. So entertainment can come to Lebanon. I went to Newport for the first time, gosh, a couple months ago, and they have an arts center in Newport. How cool is that? I don't think Newport's not much larger than Lebanon that I'm aware of, yet they have an arts center. And a lot of people don't particularly fancy arts or humanities right now because we need to put food on our table, I understand that. But wouldn't it be nice to have an alternative than just going to the Cune? Love the Cune. Wouldn't it be nice to see some live entertainment? Or have the kids do variety shows. Things of that nature. And it could have a dual purpose of maybe, I don't know, some of the seniors could do their thing in there or whatever the case may be. It'd take some research, but that'd be great fun.
I think that we have a lot of organizations in place, actually, social organizations, but I don't think that everybody understands what they are or maybe who's doing what. A place like KidCo, not everybody knows a lot about KidCo Head Start. It's a great program that we have in town, and we work with them quite a bit with our computer business. The other thing I think is that small businesses, I think can partner with some of these organizations and do some things. Because it's not just the government's role, but I think it's the small businesses in the community. One of the things that I've done personally is that, I don't know if you're familiar with the brick house over at Lebanon High across from the high school. That's where developmentally disabled kids will go, and our daughter went there for a while. Well, I'm working with a program on them, a brand new program, because newspapers are out. They're not doing newspaper recycling anymore, and that's what they used to train them. Now we're doing computer recycling, and I've trained some kids over there on how to do computer recycling. So those kinds of things with the community are what we need to do. Businesses partnering with organizations, because we have some really good organizations. And it's not necessarily just the council's responsibility, but like Dorrie said, it's more maybe of an educational thing where we need to bring it out so that people understand what's available.
Thank you, Paul. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. A council member needs to gain many different perspectives in order to gain the support to make good decisions. How would you do this?
Could you repeat that question?
Most definitely. A council member needs to gain many perspectives before making decisions. How will you do this?
Thank you. That's one of the things in my life that I've had. When I was a police officer, I had to take input, I had to look at emergency situations and take all that information in and make snap decisions. And some of them had life and death situations, I'm sure much like Jason has. You have to do that. So I have a lot of that experience, and I think that's an important thing. Also in my business life, to be successful in business, I've been in business for 5 years, and I started my business right at the start of this bad economy. And it's successful, and we have so much work right now, I can't keep up with it. But it's okay, that's a good problem, I'm not complaining. But that's what we need, is we need to be able to make good decisions, just like we would in business, but we need to do that for the community. So we need to take input from everybody, and then we need to make the right decision. You can't just look at one side of things, you have to look at everybody, and there's always two sides to every single story.
And I think in order to gain different sides of different stories, you have to be out there, and you have to be available in multiple arenas, both electronic and in person. And that's what I do to gain perspective. I have a lot of friends that I've gained throughout this process that have completely and utterly different political views than I do. But we all share the same vision of that make this area better for everyone. So I've gained a lot of perspective by able to listen, react, and respond. I kind of do the same thing, not on a life or death situation, but all day long, being an academic advisor, I do nothing but listen to folks and see both of their sides. One will complain about the teacher, one will complain about the parent, one will complain about the student, and have to come to some sort of agreement that everybody can work together with. So you just have to be able to listen, not shut down, be an active listener, take in what people are saying, let them know they're being heard, which is super important, and then take it from there.
I think I said in my opening remarks, I've been a lifelong learner. But I'd like to give two recent examples of how I operate. Because of compression and the needs at the fire department, which Jason's right, the URD was going to rebate back, if you will, that's the best way to say it, $100,000 a year for 4 years. Well, the need is immediate, right, Jason? And so what I suggested at the end of the meeting to Mr. Hitt was, there's money in the URD now that we can upfront the money, the full amount, and so they have it now to be able to get the work done, which should be cheaper now than over 4 years. So that's how I try to listen and say, okay, how can we solve it? Another one was about the water rates. Connected to that, we had people. Am I dead? Oh, we had, and my apologies to you, snowbirders. They wanted to pay nothing while they were out of town. And I said it in the meeting, and I'll say it again. If you can afford to snowbird and leave town for 4 months, you can afford the $45 a month for basic service, the ongoing cost. And then there was mention about social contract.
Gonna have to stop you there.
Anyway, instead of the money, can I have 10 seconds?
We will readdress this question as it ends.
You better have 10 seconds for the rest of the class.
I was going to say, we will readdress that in just a moment with the rest of it.
As far as perspectives go, there was a great bit from Bill Cosby years ago, and he was talking about his mother's answer to him, and she said, I brought you into this world, and son, I can take you out. I'm not going to forget who brings me into this office. It's going to be the voters. And they're the same voters that are going to put me out if I'm not doing my job. So that's who I'm going to listen to. I don't have any personal agenda to get on council other than to serve the wants and needs of you, the citizens, and the business owners in our town. As far as access to me goes, I'm going to be as progressive as I can. I'm learning all sorts of new technologies. I'm going to have a website, or I have a website. I have a Facebook page. I have a Twitter page. I, of course, have a phone. and I have an email address. And if you really want to, you can write me a letter, because I love getting letters in the mail. But every month I'm going to also have a coffee, the week of council. Early in that week, I will have a sit-down time where you come face-to-face every month and sit down with me and express yourself. And if I sit by myself, I'm okay with that. But if you come down, we'll talk and I'll hear you out. The big point to make, though, is that I'm going to remember who I serve, and that's you.
Thank you.
Can I borrow your thing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I think it's really important that you're accessible and very active in the community. I think an active city councilor who knows a lot of people cannot buy a gallon of milk without hearing about a water bill. And I think being accessible in a lot of different ways is very important. Like Jason was saying, you need to get back with people when they have a concern. But I'll tell you what, it is my general experience when I was on council before. It's wonderful that you guys are here, but for the most part, people are disinterested in city council until they have a problem. And they just want you to take care of things until you have a problem, and then they don't want to wait. What they want is, I want your attention, I want it right now, and I want to meet with you, and I want you to care about my concern. I want to listen, I want to be heard, and I want a resolution. And that resolution may be, I have to agree to disagree with you, but I got back with you, and I listened to you, and I cared about it.
I'm going to have to stop you.
And I cared.
I don't know what the question is now.
Oh my goodness, I misplaced it. One moment. A council member needs to gain many perspectives before making decisions. How will you do this?
Well, the first thing I got to agree with Bolen. I was going to use the same answer. That it's what the voters want that I go by. And according to all state laws and federal laws, the city councilor is responsible for the taxpayers' money they pay in, dues, taxes, whatever, water bills, that we are responsible to see that that money is spent for what it is collected and at the most economical way. And everything in the city council hinges on money just about. And that's my first priority, is to make sure that all the rules are followed on that. And that the money is spent where it's supposed to be spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Now to go back to the water questions. We have a question here. Why are the water rates so high? And please feel free. I know that we were all very excited about the last question. We do have to keep it to a minute. But please feel free to end your statements that you're making on the last question while answering this question, which is, again, why are the water rates so high?
I'm supposed to talk after that? Or?
Again, you have to answer the question, why are the water rates so high? Now, for those that were going on a few moments ago and were unable to finish their comments, please feel free to answer with this question.
Well, the water rates, we've already answered this so many times, that when I first got on city council 8 years ago, there was a surplus in the water department. And I didn't know what was going on. And I asked John Hitt, I said, well, can't we give some of that back or something? He said, oh, we probably could, or lower the water rates, but we didn't. They spent it somewhere, I don't know where. And they've never built it up again. Now, all at once, we have to, according to state and federal laws and everything else, we have to build a new water plant and sewer plant. So there's nothing we can do but do that, because if we don't get furnished water and sewer, they're going to be down here and close us down or something. I mean, we have to give it to you, regardless of what. But we can quit spending money in other places that is not a benefit or health or welfare of the citizens of Lebanon.
Thank you, Ray. I'm going to have to cut you there.
I was on city council at the same time Mr. Weldon was on council. I don't recall a surplus. I recall a lot of conversations about, we got this system back in the 80s from PP&L, and it had been seriously neglected. Seriously neglected. We lose a lot of water through pipes that need to be replaced, and there was a small water pipe replacement program that was going on. You can't have a surplus of funds because it's in all of our best interest to get that taken care of. But for many years, the city council, many years, they didn't raise rates, and knowing that at some point we needed a water intake plan, and there was understandable resistance to raising rates back then when we could have raised enough to build the new water plant. I think everybody here agrees that the water plant is necessary and that rates are terribly high. I hate paying my own, but I don't know that at this point in the game there's anything city council can do about it.
The bottom line is that water rates are high because of the poor planning of your city council for the past 15 to 20 years regarding the maintenance of the water system. The system we have now can't provide enough water for our needs now, barely. We're already at capacity, and it's certainly not going to provide for the growth the future we want to bring. If we want to bring in additional growth, it will provide for it. For instance, Pepsi would require, if they brought what they were going to bring to Albany, to Lebanon, they would require the entire city's consumption for one day of their production, so they have to double us. What the rates are increased for is because we need to increase revenue to get a better bond rate when we go to get a bond to go ahead and build the plant starting in 2014, I believe. Your rates aren't going down, and I'm sorry, my rate's not going down either. I pay the same rate you do, and I'm just as unhappy about it as you are. What I vow to do is not to let my council term have the same poor planning and kick the can down the road, so to speak, to use one of Paul's terms, that we get in this situation again. I would have much rather had a 3% increase over 20 years or 15 years that followed.
Paul, I'm going to have to cut you there.
You know what I mean.
They're kind of mean about it. I can speak to that a couple of ways. Through the 80s, not a good time to raise rates. Those of you who remember the 80s, tough. I actually wanted to raise rates through the 90s when as I was on council. The whole council didn't agree. There again, if you're a voice that's you're outvoted, that's just all there is to it. The capacity is the main driver on this. Last winter, we were close to having a boil your water day in Lebanon because we would have had to have passed raw water into the pipes. And no one wants a boil water day. That's the last thing we want to hear for the consumers. And so that's why it's here. And I agree with Jason. That incremental raising should have happened, didn't happen, and here we sit. One thing I will say, though, the increased rates have raised about $9 million in cash, so that we will, instead of $21 million for a bond, it'll be $12 million. So that's good. We don't have to pay interest on that. So.
Thank you, Ron.
I'm not going to reiterate because they basically said exactly what's going on. However, now that we've established that, we need to come up with some things to maybe help some folks. The folks I'm talking about primarily are senior citizens and the disabled. Folks have to make a decision whether they're going to buy medicine or pay their water bill. Oregon Heat is a program run by Pacific Power. And what we do, workers of Pacific Power and volunteer citizens who have their bill as Pacific Power, the citizens round up their bill. Volunteers who work for Pacific Power have a small amount of money taken out of their check. That goes into a pool that helps folks who are, again, disabled or who are senior citizens and can't afford to do it. Now, it's not going to solve everybody's problem, but it will help some folks who really, really need it. I wouldn't mind paying for somebody's a little bit of their water bill who can't afford it, who are disabled or who are elderly. My mom's elderly. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't think that way. Another way to provide a discount, we can now pay our bill electronically with water. Yay. Perhaps we can give people, say, I don't know, 2 to 3% discount for using the electronic method, and talk to me later because I have the big stop sign. Too much to say?
I agree, obviously, with all the other things. The kick the can down the road is obviously one of my favorite slogans because that's what it was done, and that's why we're paying these high rates. And it is unfortunate that we're in the situation where we have to pay these rates, and there's really not much that can be done at this point about it. One of the other things I don't like the way it was presented to the public. I don't like the way that the policies were changed so that the late rates, If I'm 15 days out on my water bill and haven't paid it because I haven't made enough business that month, I now have a late fee added on my bill. Another 15 days later, I get the door hanger and I get my water shut off. 30 days. There's no other utility that does that. There's none. I've checked. They're all 60 days at least. And I think it's wrong, and I think it's something that we need to change because we're all hurting right now. Everybody's got tight business, tight finances, and we need to at least help the community. Part of that thing is education. We need to educate the people. The city council and the staff has not educated the community enough.
Thank you, Paul. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next question. Paul, what is a city councilor's responsibility to the voters?
I think it's a lot like what Jason said. It's you voted us in, we're responsible to you. That's exactly what it is. And there's no other responsibility other than the people who voted you in. And making the community a safe place, make sure that you have drinking water, and make sure that you have safety. Fire and police, and the fire isn't our responsibility, but the police is. And obviously police it's in my heart because I was a police officer. And so the police department is very, very close. The whole Justice Center, it's an important place that we all voted in, and we wanted it to be the Justice Center, not City Hall North. So that was another thing I wasn't very happy with, and that's our public safety. So it's one of those things we will have to look at as city council or as mayor, is that we have to make sure that we're serving the people and we listen. And again, I will be accessible website. I've got a Facebook page that's extremely active. You can call me, you can stop by. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you have to say.
Exactly. All the things that Paul said. Moving on. I mean, there's no different definition of city council. But I think it's all in the approach of how to be a city council person. There's certain basic things, as Paul designed, that we have to do in order for everyone to be in a successful city. However, it's how we choose to present them. It's how we choose to educate. It's how we choose to listen. And I really don't like not being listened to. So if I don't like it, I'm not going to bestow that upon you. I want to be able to hear you. And we take all those ideas, weigh the pros and cons, and sometimes, like Rebecca said, you're not going to like what we have to say. And sometimes it's just a matter of, like, I didn't know a lot of the stuff about the water. I didn't know a lot of things until I started investigating and through this process. And I went, oh, that's why. So education will make people a little happier. Other than that, it's public servant.
Right on spot on is to listen. An example for me would be, and it's been mentioned about social contract last meeting, when we nixed the idea about snowbird race. I thought, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we're almost willing to put aside $10,000 to $15,000. If we're willing to do that, then we should look at those folks that are struggling with their water bill. And at the end of the meeting, I asked the city manager to develop a program to come back to council to have the criteria of what does it take to apply for those funds. And so I think that's part of the council. My job as a counselor was to listen to that person that's sitting there either complaining or testifying, is what are they saying and how does it affect them and how can I change that? Sometimes I can't. But when I can, then I should do what I can do and be creative in doing that. And so I guess that's where I've always operated from, is to be a good listener.
I think the primary responsibility of a counselor is what I talked about earlier. That's to serve the constituents in my ward, and then after those Ward 3 people, to serve the citizens of the city, and then after that, the people that live outside the city, but also own business or run businesses within the city. Those people are important too, and they should be heard. It's important to have perspective and to have a global perspective when you sit on council. My family we're a single income family, and I support 4 people on my one income. I have a much different outlook on life and on city politics than, say, Mr. Weldon or Mr. Toome, who are retired and who no longer have family to provide for. So I see things a little differently. I need to, of course, respect their positions in life, but it's important that someone looks out for my position and also the position of the young 21-year-old who's just moved to town to open a business or go to school. It's important to think globally and act appropriately at the council level, and that's what I plan to do.
I'm young too.
touch that.
I think at the most base level, public health and safety, I think what you should expect at the deepest level is that you have a safe town and that you have good drinking water and that you have streets. I mean, that is, everything beyond that is awesome, and we should aspire to it and we should work for it, but those things should never be compromised. Those are the things that you should hold council responsible for, beyond being a guardian of the taxpayer dollar, because there is a tremendous amount of money that we make decisions on, not just us, but we have a volunteer budget committee that involves other citizens that come in. And those are very important decisions, and we make allocations. We decide that this year it's more important to have another police officer as opposed to somebody to work in the library. We make those decisions, and you should care about them. Did you just call my time? Stop.
Well, I was going to say part of what Grizzle just said, that our number one duty is safety, health, and welfare of the citizens of Lebanon. And those are sewer, water, fire, for police, and ambulance service. We aren't in charge of all of them, but we have to make sure that they are working. And those things have to be done with your money that you furnish before we spend a penny on anything else. And I'm not sure that that's always being done. But that's what my duties are, that I see to the taxpayers. And that's my main and first and main duty, period.
Thank you, Ray. We're going to go ahead and move to our last two questions. First one. Is the water and sewer system sufficient for growing Lebanon? If not, what would it cost and how would it be paid for?
That's why you're paying more water bill right now. Because it won't meet the demands in just a few years. And the government, state has said we have to have a bigger tank because of fire. We've got to make sure there's enough water there in case of a catastrophic fire. So, I mean, we have no way of getting out of doing that. We have to do it, even if we have to borrow money or something.
No, I think as far as our sewer, we have capacity. As far as our water system, as we've addressed, there is not enough capacity. And capacity isn't, frankly, our only problem. We have a really outdated system, excuse me, and with parts that cannot be replaced. So even if we said we're not going to grow and capacity, we're just going to stay the same, we need a new water plant because we have functions, we have parts in the current system that if they went out right now, we're 6 weeks down to get something custom machined. I mean, so we have issues that aren't just capacity, but I would say no, it will take the water rates that we are all bearing the burden of, the increase.
I agree with Rebecca and Ray to an extent. To give you some numbers, we have storage capacity for 4 million gallons of water, which sounds like a lot of water. The average daily use of Lebanon is 3.6 to 3.9 million gallons of water. Some days, you can see we're already at capacity. There's no fudging around with those numbers. So the new plant obviously is going to increase our production. And I believe we're going to go from 4 million to a 16 million capacity is what the new capacity will be for production. And we're also increasing storage, or they are also increasing storage capacity with the new tank up on Southwest 5th. We'll be able to store more water. But we're living on the edge without a backup because if our system fails, that's it. We have a day's water in supply, and that's it. It's gone. The other beauty, or silver lining, if you would, on the new plant is that the old plant will be maintained and will be able to serve as a backup. So if we do have some sort of catastrophic failure of the new plant, which we should not, we will have a backup that we currently don't have.
Part of the money that was spent, and I agree with everything's been said, part of the money that was spent early on after the system was acquired, and it was approved by the voters, was it's been talked about, the small water line replacement. Part of it's expensive to treat water, and if you're losing it out the pipe before it ever gets to you, that's money down a rat hole, that's the best way to say it. We had wooden water pipes under our streets. PP&L had not done a good job of keeping up. So that's part of what money the last 20 years, the small water line replacement was big to replace those pipes, but to stop the water loss. And I think, if I recall, it was estimated as much as 15% of the water being treated was lost right into the ground. And I don't know what it is now, but it's much better than it was. So that's part of the cost that a lot of people don't see.
Again, echoing everyone else, I just hope, though, that this is a lesson learned and that we don't rest on our laurels for another 20 years and go, oops, just kidding, and then we have to do it again. So I'm hoping that, again, echoing everyone else, I'm hoping that we can go, okay, this is what we need to do. If we see the slightest problem, let's jump on it and maintain it so we're not slammed again.
And I agree also with all the previous. Everybody's spot on that. I sat with Dan Grassick and talked with him. He's the city engineer, and discussed these different things. And so I learned a lot about the whole city water system, more than I ever wanted to know. But I do know now. And one of the things I found fascinating, this is one of those things that the community doesn't know. There's not an education process. Did you know that if you reduce your water usage during the winter, that you will actually reduce your rates during the year? Because the winter, it's harder to dissolve the stuff that comes in the waste and in the sewer. And so that's a really neat tip. I've never heard that ever mentioned. And those are the kinds of things that we need to do to the community, is to help you to save a little bit of money. Because I haven't heard anything about saving water in any kind of program to save water, shower faucet restrictors or anything like that. You just don't hear that. And those are things I think that we all need to learn, how to conserve water. But just little tips like that might be something nice to hear. And those are the kind of things I want to see the council do. At least be responsible for it.
Thank you, Paul. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to our last question of the evening. We will be giving you a 2-minute segment period. Please use this opportunity for also closing statements. Paul, if you were elected, how would you make Lebanon a better place in the next 4 years?
Well, mine would be 2, but going mayors for 2 years. But in that time, what I want to do is I want to see the council come together. I want to see the council do more proactive things. Things we've talked about, encourage programs so that we can build up downtown. We can make the town have a vision created by the people, you and I. We get together and we find out where we really want our town to be. Again, not some state mandated that we have to do this and that. We have to have these certain kind of streets and cutouts and lawns, but more of what we really want our town. And it's more like the question about the social. It's more about the heart. We want to know what Lebanon's really going to be like. And part of that is that we have a neat downtown. It is neat walking up and down downtown. Going to the farmer's market that we've had lately has been so great. And those kinds of things are the things that we need in town. So it encourages a community. Things like the skate park. That's another great thing. Something that we don't hear mentioned very often is the soccer fields that I know Dustin Denver spearheaded. That is a great project. We have soccer fields out by Cheetah Lake now. I don't even know if you're aware of that. And the kids can play soccer where there were just grass fields. And Cheetah Lake's another great example. We have a lot of things in town that we can make a great place for Lebanon to be. We need it to be a destination. People want to live here. People want to come and play here, not just drive through and go to Foster Lake. Those are the things I think that I can bring to Lebanon. And the key things for me are transparency and honesty. And I've heard some people say that they don't think there's a problem with transparency. And those are some of the people on council, on the council and on the city administration. But there is. And part of that is that there's not communications. When you don't communicate, you make an appearance that there might be something secret or that there might be something in behind the scenes. Even if there's not, you make that appearance, and you need to make the appearance so that there's not. And you need to be open and honest, communicating via online, videotaping meetings, and showing it to the public. You need to see city council meetings on tape, because it's pretty amazing sometimes the way they go. Thank you very much. I hope you'll vote for policies.
Did I get an extra second, or did I just burn it? All right. I burned it. That's okay. What I can do for the city of Lebanon, I've done a lot already, and I'm not even in a public office. I volunteer again for a Partnership Progress Board, which means I co-chair the Farmers Market, I co-chair the Concerts in the Park series, I MC the Concerts in the Park series, I'm MCing National Night Out this year, and I did already, MCing Holidays in the Park. I'll be putting up lights every Saturday in November, please come and help me. I'm going to take that kind of thing and transpose it onto this position. This is another time where I can be able to do and work and be and help and listen. Now, as far as particulars are concerned, I'm still learning. I need to know what we need, what you need, etc. But I did it again. It's just one more step for me to be able to use my strengths in communication, my intellect, my listening ability, and my doing power to be able to help you and listen to you and make Lebanon a place we all want to be in.
What I'd like to do is extend an invitation to everyone here, whether I'm elected or not. First off, attend the budget meetings. You don't get a lot of attendance at budget meetings. I've been on council almost 28 years, and you're 4 times the crowd that attend budget meetings. Your opinion is very important to the city council. No matter who's on council, your opinion is very important. Another thing is volunteer to serve on the budget committee. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to get, over the years, hey, would you call somebody, would you serve on the budget committee? Oh, no, I can't do that. And that's true at every ward in the city. It's not just my ward, it's every ward in the city. Volunteer to be on the committee. Guess what? You have a bigger say than just attending it. So if you want more say, then get on a committee, any committee. One of the things that we've done as council, if we have someone come to a meeting and they're complaining about something, we say, will you serve on the committee that addresses that? I mean, you want to solicit people's ideas. Otherwise, all you hear is the complaining spirit. So let's get on the committee, volunteer, come to city council meetings. Not just when you're upset. Please come when you're not upset. So, just come, okay? Now, I'm going to say something about Jason. A good man is going to win in a few weeks. I think I'm a good man. I think Jason's a good man. And so, that's a win-win for Ward 1. I'm sorry about Ward 2 and 3, but go well.
Hey! I want a second back.
Ward 3.
Second back.
Ward 3. Sorry, Ward 3.
It's on there.
Could you repeat the question?
The question is, if you are elected, how will you make Lebanon a better place in the next 2 years?
4 years from now.
4 years.
You'll get
4 years for you.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming. Like Councilor Miller said, this is a great turnout. We appreciate that. I know you're taking time out of your Friday night. Thank you for coming and listening. I think the best thing I can do to make Lebanon better is to be an instrument of change for each and every one of you that has an issue or has a problem. And if you don't have an issue or a problem, then I need to continue to do what we're doing or what we will do at the city council level to move forward and to keep your lives as happy as possible. I would like to increase participation at the city level, at the city government level, whether that means more people involved in committees. Maybe they need to be beaten down the door to be on a committee instead of running from the councilors who are asking them to be on committees. But we need to increase participation and increase voter interest. And that gives you a vested interest in what's happening in your town. As far as serving, public service, it's in my blood. It's who I am. It's what I am. I've been a public servant in this town for 18 years now. There's not a day that goes by that I don't go to work, that I don't get to help somebody. And it's a little different scenario. In my everyday work life, I step into horrific situations, and I quickly figure out how to organize my team to mitigate a situation. That's my job as a company officer. I can bring those talents to the council. It's not life and death situations, but it's bringing a team together. It's focusing on cooperation and focusing on teamwork for the common goal and achieving that goal together. You may not always agree, but you have to work together. In conclusion, I really hope that you guys stick around. I know it's getting late, but stick around and talk to me. Ask me questions if you have questions. Doesn't matter what ward you're in, 3 or 1 or 2. Stick around and talk to me if you have a question or concern. Because when I win this thing, I want to be able to put that list together and move forward and get your concerns answered. And I have a few seconds left. thank you to Ron. Ron's been a great asset to me, and he's been a wonderful guy to deal with and to talk to, and I really do respect him as a counselor, and I'm going to go over a little bit and say that Ron's correct. Either one of us would do a great job.
I'm going to stop it there. Thanks.
I too want to thank you all for being here. It is great to have a good crowd that care about their community here. And I think you have, I'm very excited because in Lebanon you don't always have a choice on who you're voting for in your ward. And I think this year you really have an opportunity to have a choice of really good people that care. I think everybody here cares and does what they think is the right thing. I think that what we really need is to remember that Lebanon has a lot going for us, and we can have a few small things happen, whether those are communication problems or what have you, and you can really say, gosh, we have just this, you can really focus on thinking that we're headed in the wrong direction, and we need we need to just change the whole direction of the town. But you need to remember that at a basic level, the town is headed in a great direction. And you have had a council that does care deeply and has had a lot of foresight on bringing Lebanon to where we are today. And so while we have problems, what we need is positive leadership that will work together. I love a good, respectful political debate. I love for you to have a differing opinion, and I just get off on talking about what that is and help me understand what your perspective is. I adore that. What I want to happen is for that to happen in a really respectful arena and a respectful tone. And I know that you come from a place where you care. You know that I come from a place where I care. And therein we can find some common ground. And I think that's what you need. You need some good, positive, smart, focused leadership in Lebanon.
Well, my main concern is what has been for 8 years, to get the public involved in what's going on. And I write articles in the paper, let them know what's going on. I give out my phone number that I carry on me all the time, and I'll answer anytime, day or night. My computer is on all the time. It checks email every 15 minutes and lets me know if there's one there. It tells me I got mail. So, and I got 2 calls today on different things from people. And last month I went to 2 different house meetings. People call me up and say, if I bring some neighbors over, we're worried about this, will you come and talk to us? And I say, sure, I will. And last city council meeting, or the city council meeting before that, a gal called me up and asked me if I'd talk for her. And I said, well, yeah, that's what you voted for me for. So at city council meeting, I talked for her. And also the one before that, there was a guy that they wanted to know about their water bills and brought up people, and I spoke for them. And I want to get the public involved and let them know what's going on and what my ideas are. I thank you for listening to me.
As we end this evening, I would like to thank all of our candidates, Paul, Donnie, Ron, Dorrie, sorry Dorrie. I am there, I can't believe I messed that up. Dorrie Board, Ron, Jason, Rebecca, Ray, the friends and family members who were able to make it this evening, RKI for putting on this event, and Our Savior's Lutheran Church who made this possible. Now please feel free to take advantage of the snacks and coffee in the back of the room. And please, if you have any questions for our candidates, I challenge you to ask them before the evening is out. Thank you.
Before they all start walking out.
Sure. Yeah, we'll sit.
One to all of you. Has anybody thought about, I know that it's not called a grant, it's called something else, for the water, where they can help you build a new one, and then the money we're paying now would go for upgrading in the future, so eventually we wouldn't have to pay this amount at this time. I know about 12 years ago, Jefferson went through this, and they got into some kind of bond or something, so that they got it taken care of, but they had to raise the water rates a little bit because they were low at the time. And their water was supposed to equal out after so long, but it helped for the future, for growth, but to help them get right now to what they needed.
That almost sounds like what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
It
that's
sounds
what I was
like
gonna say.
where we've raised the rate. See, the thing is, we're not paying into a pool of money, like to buy, the water treatment plant. What we're doing is we're paying higher rates to make more revenue for the city, to raise up. It's just like when you buy a house, when you have to show an income of a certain level, and that's what the money's going for, is to show that certain level, so that then we can pay that water treatment plant and get a bond for that. And that's exactly what I think the city's doing, if I'm not mistaken.
I can add to that. He's absolutely right. We get a credit rating, which determines the interest rate we pay to the bondholder. So if you have a really good credit rating, you can then sell the bonds at a lower interest rate, which saves a lot of money over 20 years. So the water system is what's called an enterprise fund. Everything about it has to be paid for by rates. We can't, well, I guess we could, but you could take money out of the general fund. Okay, we cannot take money out of the water fund for the general fund. Not allowed by law. The bond council would have our head. And so that's part of the rules. As far as grants, believe me, if you can find a grant for
Well, it's not called a grant, it's called something else.
right. So it sounds like that's really what we are doing is that we're putting cash away until we get ready to sell bonds, income bonds, for the water system. And then that's the law. You take your cash, it's estimated we'll need to borrow or sell bonds, $12 million worth of bonds for a $21 million project, because the other $9 million is cash in hand.
Ron, I'm going to have to cut it off there. Guys, if you have any more questions, please feel free to talk to the candidates in our mingling session. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're all right.